Released in 1991 on the Sega Master System and the Sega Game Gear, The Lucky Dime Caper starring Donald Duck is a platformer licensed by Disney and developed and published by Sega. Unlike Land of Illusion, The Lucky Dime Caper is not part of the Illusion series, but it is part of the series of Disney games released on Sega consoles that had been licensed by Disney, as well as having development and publishing done by Sega. While the game was released on Sega's 8-bit systems, the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis received Quackshot, which in itself is a great game in its own ways. No prize for guessing, in this game you play as Donald Duck, as he sets out on a global adventure to rescue his nephews, Huey, Dewey and Louie. The start of the game features Scrooge McDuck giving his nephews a dime each, as he talks fondly about how his fortune started off with only a dime, his lucky dime. Unfortunately, Magica De Spell overhears all this and manages to kidnap Huey, Dewey and Louie, as well as steal all 4 lucky dimes. After she leaves, Donald, who is concerned for his nephews, prepares to leave, but Scrooge offers to sweeten the deal by offering a reward if Donald can recover his lucky dime. So it's up to Donald, and you, to sort things right, and what better to sort things right than to begin with the good. While Mickey had to use his ass to beat up enemies, Donald can simply jump on them to defeat them. He also has access to 2 weapons, but he can only have one of them on him at a time. With close range combat he has a hammer which does more damage, or he has a frisbee for long range combat at the cost of doing less damage. While most enemies die in one hit, the amount of damage either weapon or jumping does will determine how many times you will need to hit the boss of that level. Some parts of the level are a little bit easier with a certain weapon, thus adding a minor level of strategy to the game. I also like the level variety and structure in the game as well. The first 3 levels are focused around rescuing Donald's nephews. From there you can go on to reclaiming their lucky dimes before taking on Magica De Spell to reclaim Scrooge's dime. The levels are appropriate for the locations they're set in, and the enemies are unique to the locations with the exception of a couple being reskinned and the other, a bat, appearing in more than one stage. Level length is quite fair as the first 3 stages are intentionally shorter than the last 4, the final level being the longest of them all. However, it does have its hiccups and we're about to cover them in the bad. Unfortunately, a lot of the bosses in the game are really stupid. While beating bosses is normally a method of pattern recognition, some of the bosses are just plain bad. The boss of the Andes you can deal a lot of damage to just by standing under the possessed statues and throwing frisbees up at them. The lion from the Great American Forest stage, don't ask me how it got there, can be easily beaten if you stay on the branch on the left side of the stage and keep jumping on him since he stops before reaching you. Even the final fight against Magica makes the process of getting to her feel like a walk in the park, as all you need to do is attack the ball in the middle of the room until it breaks. I also felt that the patterns of some of the bosses are pretty lazy too, and were a contributing factor of making this game too easy. Another thing that made the game far too easy was the abundance of lives, portrayed as a box with Donald's head on it, that were available to me in the game. When you defeat an enemy, the item they drop, if they drop any, is randomised, and it just so happens that I got far too many lives out of it. If Donald is already holding a weapon, there's only 3 things that will drop. A star, which when 5 are collected will make Donald invincible for about 10 seconds, otherwise each star obtained up to 4 will make him attack faster. A gem, which depends on its colour, adds points to your total score, or an extra life. By the time I had to go and rescue Huey in the Andes, my life count was already at 9 and it never dropped below that despite having died quite a number of times afterwards. It also doesn't help that you can abuse the treasure rooms in the pyramid stage to constantly stack up on lives either, as once you exit them, you can re-enter them to obtain more treasure. To make it worse, your timer resets every time you enter, so you don't have to worry about running out of time to finish the level. Not that the boss was anything to write home about anyways. I think my major complaints about this game have been covered, so I'll move on to the ugly, where I discuss graphics, visual presentation, technical aspects, and the game's score. A lot of attention has been put into the visuals of this game, and it's really paid off. The Disney games on the 8 and 16-bit systems were really well known for looking great, and this game is no exception. I'll overlook the reskinned characters as there was effort into making them look different, and each level has a lot of personality that's really defined it. Even subtle things like Donald's idle animations in the tropical islands, or the South Pole stages was a nice touch and really shows the level of detail and the hard work put into this game. However, Asia and Oceania appear to be missing from the world map. Do they not exist in this world? Music is pretty catchy, and the only instance I heard it being reused was the background music for the Great American Forest and the South Pole stages. Other than that, the score is original and pleasing to listen to, which leaves me with my final thoughts. The Lucky Dime Caper starring Donald Duck overall is a fun game to play and beat. Despite the issues I had with the game, the music and the visual appeal kept me wanting more, and I'm more than happy to replay the game after beating it. While not as visually appealing as Land of Illusion, the Lucky Dime Caper can certainly hold its own, and the game has certainly earned its place with the other Disney 8-bit and 16-bit games. Interesting thing to note is that the Game Gear version, from my understanding, has a number of differences compared to the Master System version, although at the end of the day the story remains more or less the same, and it's well worth playing either way. Now for the rating. I would give the Lucky Dime Caper a lucky dime out of 10, because that wasn't predictable at all. Nonetheless, thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review.